one of the questions I always get is just how in the world do you ever arrive at buying your very first property? Because the question I get, and which I think is even more relevant to you, is just, where were you prior to ever buying a house? Like, what made you think of it and get the confidence to finally do the first one?
Sure. Yeah. So it was kind of two things. I mean, first of all, I did all the HGTV stuff, Flip This House or whatever the shows are called. That really kind of appealed to me. I've been in real estate in some capacity because I started doing mortgages pretty much right out of school. So I did have a little bit of a tie to real estate I started in '04 and did that up until I started doing real estate investing. And then actually I was doing both for a couple years there as well. So it was a little bit of the HGTV stuff, that, and then actually a friend of a friend, back after sort of the big crash of '08 and '09, he started accumulating rentals in the city. And my friend was saying that his friend was saying, look, you've got to jump into this. They're giving houses away. We're buying houses for pennies on the dollar. We're putting a little bit of money into them. We're renting them in literally a matter of days for, $2,000 a month. And it's just a great business to get into. So kind of all that stuff, you kind of throw it into a blender, and it was like, all right. And then finally, I'm not handy at all. I'm still not handy at all, which I can kind of elaborate on. I think it actually helped me as much as people would say, wait, what? So I had no construction knowledge. And then I met my now wife, and her father was just a jack of all trades. He was in construction at a very young age, wasn't in construction when we met, but he's still just the handiest guy you're going to meet. And my wife kind of pushed me. She's like, look, get into it. My father will help you. And I took the plunge.
Wow. And so your first investment, was it in the city?
It was. Yeah.
And so it was in Baltimore City. Did you buy one of those homes that they were almost giving away for a couple $1,000? I mean, was that your first?
Actually, so no, I kind of cut my teeth on flipping houses. So the first one was in Canton, which is, certainly a good area.
Yeah.
And it went pretty well. And I learned a ton. My father-in-law, speaking of, pretty much showed me the ropes of how to do. We did probably 80% of the work in the property. And I pretty much hated every last minute of it.
Yeah.
I'm just still not a I'm just still not handy, and I just don't really love doing it. But it was a huge learning experience, and one of the best things that could happen for me. I didn't like doing it at the time, like I said, but it gave me the confidence to, okay, we'll move on to number 2, number 3, and kept going.
And so now you're doing the flips. So you're earning some money, right? So you're putting money in the bank, but you're selling them.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you have the switch to say, you know what, I'm not going to just sell these things. I'm going to keep them and rent them. So what was the impetus to start that transition?
Yeah. I mean, I started with the flip, but I really pretty much right out of the gate wanted to really do both. So it wasn't anything that kind of clicked over. It just kind of happened that really I did the flip because it was kind of the quick money thing. Oh, okay, I can do it real quick. We'll sell it. We'll make some money, and then that will kind of give me a little bit of capital to go on to accumulating rentals and doing more deals. So it was just kind of, I don't want to say dumb luck, but it was just kind of like, that's kind of what I landed on. I had looked at a couple properties to buy as rentals before. And again, the first opportunity that I actually got under contract just happened to be a flip.
Right.
So
interesting. So now that you started doing it, you have a few. So when did you go full time? I'm interested to know. You had a couple. So did you have were you still a loan officer? Were you still doing the lending side?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you just started doing this on the side as like a side hustle?
Yeah. Very fortunate. I had been with my bosses at the time on the mortgage side for a very, very long time. And I kind of came to them and said, look, I really have a passion for this. I want to kind of explore, go down this road. Are you flexible with my schedule? And they pretty much said they gave me their blessing and said, sure, uh, if you want to be here 2 hours a day or 10 hours a day, as long as you still close a couple loans for us every month, go for it.
Right.
So again, very fortunate in that sense, because a lot of people that have a 9 to 5,
Right.
just can't be running around and looking at houses and meeting contractors and stuff like that, pretty much whenever they want. So that certainly did help.
So, and what do you say? Because I know you've gone to investor meetings and you still do, which I commend you for. A lot of more seasoned people don't go to those anymore. But what do you say to someone that wants to start, that's still in that early stage where what you just described, and they don't know exactly what they're going to do, and they don't know, they're nervous, right? They might have some savings, but there's a lot of eager people out there that want to start down this path. It sounds fabulous, but all they hear from the people that don't do it is how risky this is and how terrifying this is. So what advice do you give to the people that to get things started? Like,
I mean, I would, I guess, shameless plug, I'm doing coaching. So,
sure.
but in all seriousness, I very, very early on, hired a mentor. I paid a lot of money, to have a one-on-one mentorship. So I would, I would seek somebody out that can kind of help you, who's local, knows if you're going to be doing it in the Baltimore market or surrounding areas, knows the market. I think that there's some good educational stuff online, the Bigger Pockets, stuff like
Mhm.
that. I do think that sometimes people get a little bit of information overload, and they can almost get kind of that paralysis by analysis.
Right.
And, they start reading so much stuff that it almost kind of locks them up mentally.
Right.
So I think tread a little bit lightly as far as that goes. But again, getting a mentor, and at some point you just really kind of need to take the plunge, try and mitigate risks and stuff like that as much as possible. But sometimes you just got to kind of uh, take your shirt off and jump in the swimming pool and
Yeah.
you know see what temp the water is and go from there, basically.
Well, it's interesting you talk about perfection, because that's what I see with people that I talk to about investing. They've read the books, they've gone to some of these seminars, they know way more than I think I knew even when I started, but they're looking for the perfect deal, the
Mhm.
perfect opportunity, and it's really difficult. Or I don't want to overpay, or I don't want to make this mistake, and 5 years go by and they still haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's something that you've seen out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I I've said it before, and I'm sure I've heard it from somebody else. But being a perfectionist is basically being a
Yeah.
procrastinator. It's kind of and sometimes people don't know they're doing it, but they're doing it. But either way, it is holding them back. And as you well know, in this market, perfect opportunities, unless they almost never kind of just fall in your lap. I mean, unless you have a friend of a friend, and it just so happens that maybe their grandmother passed away, or
Yeah.
there are some uh, that does happen, but it happens very rarely.
Right.
So if you're going to sit back and wait for all the timing, all the stars to align, everything to be perfect, it's probably not for you.
Well, and so that's one extreme, right? So the person who's looking for that perfect opportunity. And then I literally, as you walked into the studio, I got to hear you on the phone. What I would consider is the opposite. You're relying on your experience and your connections. You were literally tell everyone what you were doing on the phone when you were coming in. You were buying another property.
Yeah, yeah. So, we're just off Charles Street in Towson,
Yeah.
and a guy that. So, actually, tie it together a little bit more. I signed for a house about 10 minutes before I came. I got on the road, signed the documents. I have a notary in my office, so it's nice and convenient. It's on purpose. So I'm not having to run from title company to I don't
Yeah.
have to go up to Bel Air and back down to
Right.
Columbia. So sign for the house with this wholesaler. Wholesaler is somebody that goes out, finds a property, and basically assigns the rights to that contract. So they're kind of like a middleman. They're finding a good opportunity, and then they're finding an end buyer, like somebody like myself. So I bought this property literally again before I walked out the door to come up here. And then I'm literally, I don't know, 2 miles away at best, and he sends me pictures, and the pictures are good enough for me to make a decision on, and says, "Hey, do you want this house?" I would bet that he probably didn't even send it to anybody else. So, um, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." It was priced well enough where I know that I have some room for error.
Right.
I'm not just looking at a couple handful of pictures and buying everything. But if it's priced correctly, and I know that if I get in there and oh wow, that's maybe $5,000 cost that I didn't really see in the pictures or something like that, then I'm going to pull the trigger on it, because I don't know, maybe not in that case, but e- everybody is now, and he might say, well, look, if you don't want it, I'm just going to send it out to 25 other people,
Sure.
and I might wake up tomorrow and when I have a chance to see it or send one of my guys see it, and before I know it, it's gone.
Right.
So and it helps a lot for him. I mean, obviously, he made a sale by sending me
Sure.
one text message.
And to clarify, so a wholesaler might get something under contract for, I'm making up numbers, but let's say 100,000, and that's his assignable price, and he can give you a price as well that's above that.
Mm-hmm.
And so his profit is going to be the difference. Is that essentially how that works?
Yeah, and he disclosed it to me. In that case, he's making $12,500 on that deal,
right? By
finding a motivated buyer for a distressed property, and knowing me, a good end buyer. So,
and how much risk does that wholesaler take? How much money did it take of his to do this?
It can really, really vary. Yeah, I mean, some of those deals, because we do it as well, we do direct to seller marketing. Some of them can cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to get in the door. At one point, I was running commercial ads on TV, and yeah, I mean, you can blow through $20,000 a month,
right,
for running some commercials and during Jerry Springer at 10:30 at night.
Well, we lost our Jerry Springer recently, but
yeah,
yes, I gotcha.
R.I.P. Jerry.
Yes.
So and then sometimes he might just know an agent.
So I guess my point is, so you're referring to marketing costs. You're thinking of the business of it, because you can't do what he just did, that wholesaler, consistently without some form of inbound opportunities or leads. But if he knew the person, it could have cost him nothing, and he didn't put any money into the deal.
Right.
Potentially.
Right. Or it could be an agent that said, actually the deal that I signed for before I came up here, an agent was involved. So in that case, he didn't put any marketing money into it. It was just a relationship-based deal.
Right.
The agent said, hey, do you have a buyer for this? He said, yeah, sure. Send it to me. I said, sure, I'll take it.
And it could be a win-win-win, right? So the seller had a quick sale, as is, got out the door. And it's, I like it as someone who lives in the state and wants the state to do well, because you're going to invest money, you're going to beautify it, you're going to get it rented. It's not going to be a boarded up home anymore, right? So we only can hope this continues for the city, right?
Yeah.